To start with, we got in the rodeo business in 1977. I just came right from college, went to the bank, and back then, it didn't hurt to be a Growney. It still doesn't hurt to be a Growney, and I'm very proud of being a Growney. But when I went in there with this senior project that I did, and I told the banker I wanted to get in the rodeo business. So that was in 77, and they loaned me the money, and I got in the rodeo business. And it's been a struggle ever since then because I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and sometimes I wonder if I still do. Red Rock came 10 years later in our rodeo career, and everything was taking us in growth. And then in 1984, we bought Red Rock from an amateur stock contractor, and he was better than I thought he was. I gave 10 grand for him. And that was a lot of money to us, and that was a lot of money for a bull in 1984. But the longer we had him, we realized we had this great animal. And he kept going unridden. He was bucking all the world champions off. Any good bull rider that would get on him, he'd throw him off. And so about 4 years later, 1987, 84, 85, 86, 87, he wins Bucking Bull of the Year. He's 10 years old. It's time for him to be retired. And we want him to go unridden. So we go to the national finals. He's already been elected or nominated or wins Bucking Bull of the Year for 1987. 5,000 bulls in the PRCA, and the Cowboys say this is the number one bull in the PRCA. Well, I have, through life and through my rodeo business, we've already know this Lane Frost. And Lane Frost has a chance of winning the world championship in 1987. And he's got this great personality. People love him. He just knows, he caught on at a young age what sells. And he was selling himself. Anyway, he wins the world championship. So I know we've got this 1987 Bucking Bull of the Year. And we've got this 1987 world champion bull rider. And Red Rock retires unridden from the national finals. And now we have Lane Frost. So I sit Lane down, I go, Lane, we got to do this match. And he was all for it. He could understand it. So we put 7 rodeos together. And Lane's the guy that's going to challenge Red Rock. And it became known as the Challenge of the Champions. And the first 2 rodeos, the first one was at Red Bluff. And Red Rock just plants Lane in the ground and sort of almost knocks him out, but doesn't doesn't hurt him that bad, but it hurts him. And the next weekend we're at Clovis, California, and Red Rock drives him in the ground so hard that they have to go out and turn Lane around and escort him back to the bucking chute because it just really stung him. And then the next one was at Reading, and he rode Red Rock for the first time at Reading, but he was learning tricks. And we knew that if we allowed Lane to get on Red Rock enough, he'd figure out how to ride him. And so at Reading, he rode him. And then our next challenge was at Livermore, and he rode him. And the next day, Lane and I get in my pickup and my trailer, and we go right from Livermore, California, with Red Rock in the trailer to Sisters, Oregon. And so it's about, 300 miles up there and 200 miles to Livermore. So it's a 500-mile trip. And we do stop at home at Red Bluff to rest Red Rock and to shower and clean up. And then we do an all-night drive. And Lane ends up riding Red Rock again at Sisters. And that was Red Rock's hometown. That's where the amateur stock contractor we bought him from lived. That's where Red Rock was raised. So the whole town of Sisters shows up to watch this challenge. And by then, George, what's George's name? I swore I'd never forget it. But he had the sports machine on NBC, and he was showing it every Sunday night. And George Michaels of the sports machine, great guy. He got involved in it, and we had the Sue Rosoff and Kendra Sanos, and we had just so many good people that understood marketing. And by the time we got to Livermore and Sisters, their crowds were sellouts. Red Bluff was a sellout. Reading was a sellout. Everywhere we went, Clovis was a sellout. So we had the right people marketing it. USA Today, Sports Illustrated. So many people were involved in this all of a sudden because they understood this challenge amongst these 2 great guys. So Lane ends up bucking off twice, riding him 3 times, Then we go to St. Paul, Oregon. It's the 6th match. And Red Rock bucks Lane off. And so then we go to Spanish Fork, Utah for the last of the 7 rides. And it's tied 3-3. And by then the Chronicle and everybody is following this thing. They're sending sports guys to Spanish Fork, Utah from San Francisco to follow this. And also the U.S. Forestry in a Smokey Bear kind of a commercial wants Red Rock, Lane Frost, and Smokey the Bear. And they send out a team of media people to photograph this last ride. And then they end up making a flip book and a comic book, or a coloring book out of Red Rock, Lane Frost, and Smokey the Bear. And I learned then that it was no longer Smokey the Bear. When I was a kid, it was Smokey Bear. But, so anyway, a lot of great things happened out of this match. And it was probably the biggest thing, even today, to ever happen to the PRCA. And so, sort of accidentally, but I understood marketing a little bit, that this was one of the greatest things we could have done for rodeo. Yes, and it turned in, with the death of Lane Frost, which we never, would never even want to think about it happening. But the next year, he's killed by a bull in Cheyenne. And they write a song about Lane and Red Rock. They do a movie about Lane, and Red Rock's part of it. They do so many other things, that it's a hype. 25 years later this year, Lane Frost died, and it's still big now. Clovis just did, and that right behind you is the bronze they did, a 1.5 bronze that they set right in front of the parking lot. And this is their 100th year, and Lane's mom and dad are coming, and part of their 100th year, they're really hyping the ride of Lane Frost and Red Rock. So it is a great thing. A lot of great things have happened.